Welcome to Story Hour, a virtual meetup hosted by Wolf and Heron.
So every day I go outside to my backyard and I yell at my dog Frida because she's barking at the neighbor's dog. And every day she looks back at me and keeps barking. I've always wanted a dog like Lassie. They would do your math homework, or walk you home from the school bus, or go swimming in the creek with you and not run away, or rescue you from a well. But that takes training and persistence, just like my dreams did as a kid. I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to inspire people and make them laugh and make them cry. But I stuttered, and I stuttered till I was for a long time. And when I was in college, I was still stuttering. I did major in theater for a year, but I never tried out for anything. I was just too embarrassed. So I majored in journalism. I had always written, and so I thought, okay, I'll be a great investigative reporter, but A, I couldn't talk to people, and B, I thought my writing was kind of sophomoric. Anyway, life happens, and I find myself at 40 years old with 2 kids. I had left my husband, and I was teaching Kundalini yoga in my living room. Now, I did write great press releases, but I always had my dogs. As a kid, I had Angel, Casey, and Taffy. In college, I got Damien. Then I had, when the kids came, Rebecca, Jesse, Sadie, Dylan, Toby, Maisie, Jake, Zach, Sonny, and now Frida. And none of them would rescue me from a well, or even win or enter an obedience trial. And during the last 15 years, I've had the terrier gang, Sadie, Zach, and Sonny. And they weren't the best of dogs. They peed in the house, they fought each other, they stole food off the counter. They yapped at every person who walked in front of our house. And the toy fox terrier used to bring in all her kill, snakes and baby bunnies and mice. But they were funny and affectionate, and I made them homemade treats, and every day we'd explore a different trail, and every night we slept together in the same bed. They inspired me to start an organization that educated the public about puppy mills and pet stores. I was the president, so I had to give presentations. So at 62 years old, I went on stage for the first time. It was in front of 500 people. I stuttered and stumbled, but I also made the audience laugh and cry a little bit. I felt I had a success there. Then I started attending storytelling events and put my name in the hat. But I practiced. I wrote and rewrote the stories. I practiced in front of the mirror 100 times. In 2017, the last of my terriers died. And I had spent more than 30 years as dogs were my constant companions. I mean, I didn't go walking without a dog ever. At home, I have to step over them all the time. I have to be aware that they were there. They slept with their heads on my legs, and we watched my favorite shows together. I always thought they were our favorite shows, but I wasn't never sure. And yes, we attended many obedience classes together. So I didn't know what to do anymore. I started writing a book about my dogs. Now, I kept the focus on the dogs, but you really can't write a memoir without some serious self-reflection. And I realized how hard I had been on myself for not making my dreams come true. I had never consciously admitted to myself that how disappointed I was in how my life had actually turned out. And anyway, so last year, I went to Boulder and competed in the first live story slam since the pandemic. I beat 9 other people and I won. I made the people laugh and cry. It kind of felt like home. And then a week after that, my editor calls me and says, hey, I love your book. It's awesome. We have the cover done. We are ready to start marketing in the spring. And there's no magic here on how this happened. I practiced and I attended probably, 50 storytelling events over 5 years. I revised my book for 3 years. And I still write and I still speak. Every day I have to practice that. But something has changed. Maybe it's age. I got older, and maybe I just accepted what is, how my life has been, and what it is now. So a couple months ago, I'm standing outside, and my dog is barking at the neighbor dog, and I go out there and I just stand there and fold my arms like this, and I think, you know what? It's time for a bark collar. And Frida whips her head around and looks at me, and she runs in the house and goes sits in her bed. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Now that was magic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Lovely. All right. Kara's going to drop in the chat the link to that story. Ooh, okay. So what did we all like about Mary's story? What's worth holding on to? Go ahead, Bart.
I think I'd hold on to anything about dogs and training. It's that's a recipe for any type of stumbles and failure. And, and when you think you're succeeding, maybe not so much. They always tend to do something to tell you, yeah, you're not so smart. So you thought you had me, but you're not so smart. So I love that. I love that metaphor of with the dogs and training and all that. I love it.
Go ahead, Molly.
Mary, when you listed off the names of all of your animals, it was such a beautiful way for me viscerally to feel the space that they took in your life. Mm-hmm. And then later on, when you were talking about how they'd passed and the emptiness after they weren't on your lap, and the whole, I could feel the emptiness with the juxtaposition of all of those names and then the emptiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I thought was really nicely done, very artfully done, is that you had many different threads that you were pulling. Mm-hmm. You had a thread about stuttering. You had a thread about your dreams to be on stage. You had a thread about your dogs. And these all wove together to tell the story. And it's funny because I was taking notes on your story as you were telling it. And you had something, you wanted this lassie, and then, but I have stutter. And then, I went and studied journalism instead of theater. And then you moved on. And I actually put a little note being like, wait, was that first stuff relevant? And then I crossed it out because later on it very much became relevant. And so there was something about the way that you dropped your seeds that whatever you did drop showed up again and again and again. And so it started to feel very connected, and the threads carried very, very nicely. So I thought that was very artful.
I was worried that was just too much, too confusing. And I was going to just stick with the dogs and training, but it really was the dogs who changed my life. Mm-hmm. It really was. And I think I would have, if I would ever to write this out, it would have to be way longer, but yeah, I didn't think it actually was going to work. But
it's true that it was the dogs that changed your life. But the thing is, we need to understand what was wrong in your life and then what became better. And so therefore we have to know about the dreams that didn't come true. And we have to know about all that as well in order to understand the impact the dogs had.
Yeah. Okay.
Other thoughts? What else did you appreciate about Mary's story? Go ahead, Kara.
So I'm trying to figure out how to articulate it, and I can't quite, but there was some sense of the steadiness of your pace that I really appreciated. It was like not too slow, not too fast. And there were ebbs and flows, and it felt a little bit like maybe like a short film in a way. But there was something about it, I think it's building on what Stephanie was saying, where it was like, there's definitely red thread, but it was more complex than like a simple red thread. And so it just felt very rich and honest, but not like blown up honest, kind of like touching it and then moving on. Like there were just some really interesting things about the pace of the story and the complexity that I appreciated.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate your vulnerability, Mary, in terms of sharing about your stuttering. I stuttered myself as a child, and and about the feeling that you didn't achieve your life's dream, but that you found purpose in your relationship with your dogs, and finding acceptance with that and celebrating that. And then the ending I thought was really cute, where you felt like you and your dogs had just a great connection. That was the implication when you shared that that your dog understood what you were saying, and now he's going to smarten up. I take it he's going to smarten up and not be a bad little dog.
He's a bad little dog. He's gonna bark any minute too.
I have similar issues with my cats. I have two cats. One cries constantly. I love him dearly, but pain in the neck. Thank you.
Okay, what about experiments for Mary to try, things to play with for her story to become more powerful? Go ahead, Bart.
I think one of the main things you were trying to get at the end with the whole magic comment is that you dropped a tiny seed a little bit before that about how like you kind of gone through like, oh, all these cool things just happened and it's not magic. It's just the way it kind of came together, and then you tied it back in. But I would like to see you say a little bit more about why it's not magic, the achievement part. And dig into that a little bit more of just like, an example, maybe some example of like, the reason why I got the book deal is just because I spent hours upon hours like editing and choosing words and whatever it may be, whatever that experience, whatever visceral experience you had with that. Or like, yeah, it's not magic. It's just hard work and moving forward after your stumbles. So, but just a little bit more on that, something would be great, because then it would tie back into the magic part at the end a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that there's something interesting about when you pick a final line for your story, thinking about how that line will tie a bow on your story. Right. And I think maybe, Bart, that's kind of what you're talking about, is like the bow could be tighter and more neatly done if there's more about magic in your story before you get to your final line.
Actually, I just wrote that. I didn't have an ending. I do this. I didn't have an ending. I thought I did, and when I looked at it at 10:30, I don't have an ending. So yeah, I usually weave that through, but it was such a stunning occurrence. It had to have been magic.
Yeah. What else? What else can Mary experiment with? Go ahead, Kara.
I don't remember exactly what you said, but there was this one line where it's basically, I realized I was disappointed in what my life had become. And then you very quickly said, anyway. And part of me, like that line kind of hit me in the face with its honesty and grittiness. And part of me wishes I had a little bit more of a pause, because I almost immediately internalized it and thought about it for myself. But then it felt like you dismissed the value of that sentence by saying anyway. And so I don't know what the right transition is there, but I would poke that moment a little bit more because it was such a real statement. And you don't want to, like, there's no reason to anyway it. And like, from a listener perspective, I was like, cool, I wanted to honor that more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
I think, yeah, to sort of second Kara's point, you are in the unique position of being a septuagenarian, right? And so like, there's some amount of wisdom that is just bestowed upon you by being your age. And so the rest of the world looks to people in your sort of age category to like know about life. Right. And so it's like really profound to hear somebody say, especially a septuagenarian, like, yeah, it was like my life didn't turn out the way I wanted. Because I think most of us living in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s are like, well, I still have time. Right. And I think your lesson.
No, you don't.
Well, I mean, some of it is, no, you don't. And some of it also, what I pull away is, like you do still have time. Right. But like, don't waste it. Right. I think it's
right.
a little.
Yeah. That's kind of, this kind of coming up with some kind of talk that has to do with that. Yes, you always have time. Yes, you do, but you really don't. Don't keep wasting time.
It's like an interesting juxtaposition you're trying to tell us. It's like this idea of being on stage for the first time at 62. Yeah. Right. That was your dream, to be on stage. And it 62, it started. Right. Which is like profound. And so I think there's something fascinating there to kind of Kara's point about like, you have a certain power because of who you are to say a statement like that and have it land. And so let it like take that power, claim it. Mm-hmm. Abednego, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I do admire about her story is that she kept resilient despite the emotions she went through, the water splitting when her husband left her, and she started incorporating with the dogs and moving along with that. And one important things that came out that when she make a statement, when she tell the stories, they were very influential, that people laughed, other people went in tears. I think that was very unique of the path of the stories. And I think one thing she can add towards her next adventures of the story is that maybe if she having to serve as mentor to other young generations will help to collaborate or help to build her story to be more influential at the very end of her age, to tell the world or to tell the people where she were, what she is, and what she wants to become, and what would be her message to the world in order for the young generations to look at the impactful act of the story and see how best they can navigate.
Yeah. Something about the legacy.
Yeah, legacy and getting legacy and also being influential in the level of young generation.
Great. Well, thank you.
Visit wolfandheron.com to find out more about our story hours.